Join me for a conversation with a frequent guest of the show, David Morgan, the Silver Guru, an expert on money, metals, and mining, also a lecturer and an author. Mr. Morgan has written Get the Skinny on Silver Investing, available on Amazon.com. His website is themorganreport.com. David, welcome back to the program.
Oh, it's great to be back.
I understand you recently returned from a conference in Panama where you visited with the folks at Swiss Metal Group, holders of strategic metals for ownership as an investment. Now, I met this same group at a conference in New Orleans a few years back, and they were quite affable. Tell us about the Swiss Metal Group.
Sure thing. I'd actually run into them as well at different conferences, but at this Panama conference I actually had some extra time and spent, in fact, most of my on and off hours learning more about the Swiss Metals Group and what it was all about, and there's several things about it that I like. So what I did was I put out a special report for the Morgan Report subscribers, and then I also put it out on our free email list, Ellis, and as you know, there are advantages to both. The free email list does give you a weekly update every Saturday on the economy, the interviews I do, such as yours, and occasionally there's a bullion dealer special that is made available to all readers, both the paid members and the free list. And an opportunity like this, the advantage of being a full-fledged member is you actually, if you decided to participate in these strategic metals, you actually could get up to 3 years of free storage. Whereas if you're on the free list, they did make available, I think it was 1 year free storage. You don't quote me on that. You have to look at the actual what's in writing, but they'll honor what was written about them. So what I found out was that there are 4 classifications that they have on these strategic metals. They have some that are devoted toward defense. They have some that are devoted toward construction, like the build-out of China, etc. And they have a couple other categories. Currently, I think the defense one is one that has a high potential in my view. They all do. What I like about it is that one is tangible. It's like holding silver and gold. These are real physical metals. And the reason that you don't hear about it is these are off-market metals. These are ones that sometimes go through the London exchange, but more often than not, they're by private brokers that deal with private entities. But of course, these metals are used throughout the entire technology spectrum. Cell phones being, one example that everyone can relate to. They put them into baskets, and all this is explained in our report. In fact, before I move on, Ellis, what I might do is offer not the insider report for Morgan Report members, but the one that's available to the free list. And just say, there are advantages if you go to our website, silver-investor.com, and you sign up for the free weekend report. We will be putting this out again in probably a few months and make it available for everybody. But these are critical components, as I said. They're used in computer circuitry, cell phones, as I mentioned, jet engines, night vision equipment, DVDs, light bulbs, clothing dyes, pharmaceuticals, and more. They vary, these baskets, and the price of them vary. But there's a lot to this, and I think that it's a very simple to understand, very proven way to invest in a tangible asset.
How do you see your return on investment in this sort of asset? I mean, I understand the different uses for these strategic metals, but how does one profit ultimately from investing in a collective of these 4 different baskets, as you call them, in the Morgan Report? We grasp investing in silver, gold, platinum, and palladium, etc. But how do you wrap your head around this if you're unfamiliar with it?
Yeah, that's a great question. Since it's a real asset, the value of a metal is impervious really to movements in currency, although currencies fluctuate against each other. But when it's time to liquidate, you can take your proceeds in any worldwide legal tender you wish. So if you want to play the currency game, you could do that. So that's one way to look at it. So that's one opportunity here in this asset class that isn't available, say, in maybe in a gold asset where you buy it in U.S. dollars and you have to cash out in U.S. dollars. You have the opportunity to cash out any way you want, depending on which direction you expect the dollar to move. So there's a little bit of currency hedging available if that's what you want to do, if that's how you want to play it. For example, you could buy in U.S. dollars, and when you get ready to cash out and find out it's to your advantage to cash out, let's say, in the Australian dollar, you could do so. Because they're physical metals, there's always an industrial demand for them. So there's protection really 2 ways. There's protection against debasement of the currencies, and also there's pretty much a ready-made market. The amount that they store looks impressive. I visited the vault in Panama when I was there, and they have it vaulted not only in Panama, they have other facilities. So if you have a different jurisdiction you prefer, you could talk to them about that. but I was impressed that the vaulting facility is as good as any I've witnessed, and I've been to several. The other situation is you can, go look at it and touch it yourself. I mean, this is the real deal. The growth rate on this stuff has been pretty good. I mean, one of the baskets is a growth rate of about 79% over the past 5 years. The construction basket, which was not developed 5 years ago, has been up about 25% over the last 30 months or so. And the defense basket's been a laggard. It's only up about 7% in the first 2 years, and that was only started about 2 years ago. But what I like, again, is not only it's a tangible asset, but that they're not considered financial instruments. So they aren't subject to any type of reporting. In fact, to report it, they'd be breaking the law. They'd be saying, hey, here's a financial asset that Ellis owns, and whatever jurisdiction you're in worldwide would say, what are you talking about? That's not a financial asset. That's some bunch of metal that we never heard of or know the names of. So if that concerns you, it's something to think about. Now, I'm not giving any tax advice here. What I'm saying is what their side is responsible for. In other words, Swiss Metal Incorporated has no obligation to report the assets to anyone. In fact, they have no mechanism to do so. And this is a point that Newt Anderson, that I spent so much time with down in Panama, went over with me several times. And this is one of the key reasons that I think the special report is important for everybody to understand, because in today's world, let's face it, governments have become ferocious about what they consider to be theirs, not yours. So they do have relationships with banks, not only vaulted in Panama, but also in Switzerland, and they can arrange, private offshore storage with some relative strong privacy, and that's very difficult in today's environment.
Any tax advantages that you're aware of, per se?
Certainly, I'm not going to give tax advice on the radio, but I think the best thing to do is to get on our mailing list, get this mailing, or contact us directly. I mean, if you're interested in this from this radio show, certainly send an email to support@silver-investor.com and let us know you want more information on the Swiss Metals Group. We'll be happy to send it to you. But they go through the ability to put an IRA into this investment. You actually own the metal. The only caveat is, what I like to teach and preach, which is if you don't hold it, you don't own it. I mean, that's the best. Really, I won't get away from that. In this case, you would have it stored for you, and of course, you can go touch it. I mean, go down to the vault and look at it and see it, and actually go physically handle it. In fact, the one in Panama was very interesting, and I haven't seen the Swiss vault, but in Panama, they actually have, if you want, little safe deposit boxes, so you could take your metal and put it in one of these boxes, and you'd have the key to it and all that, so you could basically, take it home, do whatever you wanted with it. Again, on the Swiss side, I'm not really certain. But what I would suggest is that you call them and go over all this stuff with them. They're the ones that are doing this. I think it's kind of as a public service. Have I invested? Yes. I really like it for a lot of reasons. It broadens your metals exposure, and having called myself a metals head for years doesn't mean just precious metals. These metals, I think, have high potential. They've got a good track record. They're not as volatile as the gold and silver markets, but they kind of have this steady Eddie approach to continually. And then they go up and down, but they've had a pretty good track record over 5 to 3-year time frame. And I think as things tighten up, we all know that this resource situation is getting tougher and tougher all the time. We're talking resources across the board, not only cheap oil, but metals, food even, and everything involved. So again, I'm probably sounding a little too salesy on this. I don't want to, but it's an available situation that I think bears looking into. Certainly it's not for everyone. The potential tax advantage as well as establishing privately held metal is something that, you need to check with them to get more information about. I don't want to make a strong commitment about what it really does, because jurisdictions vary, liability varies, and it depends on, what jurisdiction you're in. I mean, our subscriber base is about 42 countries, which is pretty impressive. You got to remember that, we have like 2 subscribers from Japan, but nonetheless, we have them from Japan. We have them from, all kinds of European countries, and of course, North and South America, etc. So, that's a lot to consider, and, one size doesn't fit all, but nonetheless, this opportunity is something that once I learned about it, I got fairly excited, and that's why I came up with this special report that we put into the members-only part of the website and sent out to our free list so that they had the opportunity to at least investigate it.
Well, it's always a pleasure to bring a new potential opportunity to our listening audience. If you'd like to learn more about the Swiss Metal Group, contact David by sending an inquiry to support@silver-investor.com. That's support@silver-investor.com. David, thanks so much for joining me today on the program.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
I've been speaking with David Morgan of themorganreport.com and silver-investor.com. Listen to the segment again on the podcast page of our website, ellismartinreport.com. I'm Ellis Martin.